evening from Westchester Public Library. Welcome to the final performance in our virtual summer concert series. Tonight's musical guest is a quintet from the South Shore Brass Band. Please join me in giving them a warm welcome.
One, two, three. Good evening. Thank you very much. I hope you're enjoying this warm evening at home. It's a beautiful, calm night, so hopefully our music won't go away. Earlier, the neighbors were mowing their grass, and I've noticed they finished just in time. So we're happy to be with you again. We played a concert with the Westchester Public Library for at least 12 years. My Facebook told me that because there was a picture of this same quintet, four of the same members playing in downtown Chesterton in front of Gazebo. In recent years, we've been able to have the full band play, and we've done a full band concert either at the park, at Thomas Park, or Thomas Library if it rained, but in the library outside the gazebo, or over in Porter at the park. So we wanted to open our program. We usually start with the Star Spangled Banner, but tonight we played a medley of American tunes called America's Pride, arranged by Wesley Hanson, who's a great trombone player. And of course it had America the Beautiful, Columbia the Gem of the Ocean, America, and the Star Spangled Banner. Next we want to continue our program, and tonight we're kind of featuring a lot of older music. You'll recognize most of the tunes, I believe. We've worked with Thrivent Financial, and that's why we're wearing our Thrivent Financial shirts tonight. First of all, it was a lot cooler than our black band shirts, but also because they helped sponsor this concert and help provide music for us through a grant. So we're happy to have them help out with us and to support Thrivent Financial, or get the support from Thrivent Financial. They've also helped us to do concerts at some of the nursing homes throughout the area. Next, we want to play for you another tune. We did a program called The Trolley Comes to Valpo, and this program traced the history of the old trolley that started in the late 1800s and came from Gary and through Chesterton area and down to downtown Valparaiso, right to Lincoln Way at Franklin Street, I believe. So our next tune is going to be a Sousa march. It was written in 1889, so this is one of his earliest marches. Many of you may know John Philip Sousa and his band performed at the Memorial Opera House in Valparaiso on 3 different occasions. One was in 1898, where they may well have played this march because it was one of his most popular. They also appeared in 1904, 1907, and one more time in 1914 at the Memorial Opera House. So we're happy to play next is Washington Post March. It's one of the most familiar and favorite of his marches. unusual for us to play and not have a break or an interlude with the audience applauding, not the applaudience. I make mistakes like that so these guys can laugh at me.
Close enough.
Yeah. So the audience applauds, of course, which gives us time to empty the condensation out of our instruments and also a chance to change our music. Next, we're going to do another older tune. It's from 1913. It's called All Aboard for Dixie. And this tune is a medley of songs. And it starts out, all of the tunes were written between 1910 and 1920. And this arrangement by James Red McLeod, and I'm not sure of if you'll recognize necessarily the tunes. You might. I don't know the names of most of them, the titles, but I do know that they all came from All Aboard for Dixie, which are obviously they're Dixieland style tunes from the teens. One, two, three. Thanks, John. So as you can tell, all those tunes were kind of from the railroad times and the trolley times. And as I mentioned earlier, we were fortunate to have a trolley that ran for quite a number of years. And our good friend Ed Sikowski has a program of slides, and we had hoped to get together with him and do that program. We did it once at Prince of Peace Church, I believe it was. No, not Prince of Peace. The church up on 49, just south of Highway 6, the Lutheran church. And he had slides and a commentary explaining all about what went on with the railroad. So our next tune is again one that's very familiar. As soon as I get my music, you got the sun shining in your eyes over there.
Yeah.
So you have the remote up, right? Okay. So our next tune is famous in many ways. Of course, it's written by John Philip Sousa, and it's one of his earlier marches, 1893, and it was made most famous on Monty Python's Flying Circus, and so that made a big difference. Oh, I hear the ice cream truck is coming. I hope we don't lose any of the band members here. I hear the music of the ice cream wagon. I don't know if you could hear it in the background or not.
We had to hold Lenny down.
So next we're going to play the Liberty Bell March by John Philip Sousa. Not fast either. 1, 2, ready? Someone in the neighborhood who appreciates either Monty Python or Sousa's Liberty Bell. But in either case, that's wonderful. We really enjoy playing these marches. This march would probably have been named The Devil's Deputy when Sousa was composing music for an operetta of that name at the request of the celebrated comedian Francis Wilson. Sousa asked $1,500 for the work, but Wilson only offered him $1,000. When they could not come to an agreement, Sousa withdrew his partially completed manuscript, which included this march. So later on, the march was christened the Liberty Bell when it was played in, of course, Philadelphia for the spectacle called America as the Backdrop, and a huge painting of the Liberty Bell was lowered, and so that became the title of the march, and it was one of the first marches that John Philip Sousa sold to the John Church Company, and was the first composition to bring Sousa a substantial financial reward. As you're probably aware, with copyright laws and things, the copyright on all of Sousa's music has long since run out, and of course it's arranged by many different people, and then those arrangements have become very popular, and those then contain their own copyright. We're playing from the original manuscript that Sousa wrote and arranged, and just using the parts of the march, the first, second, solo and first trumpet parts, or second trumpet part, the tuba part, trombone, euphonium, and I'm playing horn, and sometimes I cover some of the saxophone parts as well. So next we're going to go on to play some ragtime. I have to find it. It's in the front of the book. 35, thank you. So when you start talking about the music of the early 20th century, 120 or so years ago, several names come to mind. Of course, Scott Joplin with his ragtime pieces that were very, very popular. There were other ragtime pieces that were also popular, and we're going to play, this one is called The Easy Winners, and this was composed by Joplin in 1901. It was first published, and again, it's in typical ragtime form. It's just a slow beat, and it's got a nice catchy tune to it that you'll see gets passed around through the various instruments in the brass ensemble. While we're taking a break, I told people that I would ask them to each introduce and talk a little about themselves, but I'm going to go first. My name is Phil Hahn, and I am the president of the South Shore Performing Arts Company that sponsors the South Shore Brass Band. Our last concert was scheduled on March 12th in Couts, Thursday evening, and you may recall that was also during the basketball sectionals, and that's when the word came down from the Department of Education that they were to cancel all basketball games and events at the school. Some of our performers were actually en route to Couts High School to play the performance. We had played there earlier in the week with a smaller group. We'd done clinics with the students in the band there, and we were prepared to do a full band concert. The full brass band is 28 pieces, and I'll talk a little more about the pieces in the brass band and the instruments that it uses, the cornets and the euphoniums and all that other good stuff, as well as, of course, percussion. But in the brass band, there are no woodwinds at all. Well, in our ensemble, there are no woodwinds either. Usually two trumpets. We have a trumpet and a cornet, which are essentially the same sound. In the brass band, they usually use cornets. You can hold that up, which is the same length as Larry's trumpet. It's just a little shorter and squatter, and it has a little more mellow tone. So when Larry plays the trumpet, he plays it like a cornet with a beautiful mellow tone. And you'll notice that you can't tell the difference how they blend together. And then, of course, we have a tuba, slide trombone, and a French horn in this ensemble. So let's go on, guys, and let's play The Easy Winners by Scott Joplin. Lots of syncopation. No repeats. As we mark. 1, 2, 1, and 2. So that certainly is one of the lesser known of Scott Joplin's rags, but it's easy to identify as ragtime music in the style. So, as I mentioned, we're all part of the South Shore Brass Band, and the brass band normally rehearses often, 3 or 4 times a month, depending what our concert schedule is. And then through the summer, normally we played concerts both up in Chesterton, sometimes at the Indiana Dunes. We played at Potato Creek State Park. We played concerts in Valparaiso. We were scheduled to play over in Dyer for the town of Dyer, and they promised me that we'll be playing over there next summer, but they've canceled a lot of their concerts, and as many events have been canceled. So for us, it's a little more of a challenge to be this far apart. It's a little harder to hear each other. We don't have earbuds in our ear for a click track like you hear when you see some of the professional music that's going on YouTube, where people are all listening to a click, and then they're recording each part, and then someone is layering all the parts together, because our technology is not good enough that we could play over the internet and not have to deal with a delay. So we have to get together live, and so, as you know, we're seated far apart. We try to be very careful about that. We're going through a ton of hand sanitizer, and but we're really enjoying the opportunity to play together again after quite a hiatus, we should say, since March 12th. So that's April, May, June, almost 4 months before we played in an ensemble. So next we're going to go on with a second Scott Joplin rag, and this one, of course, you know, it's called The Entertainer, and he wrote this in 1902. Again, no repeats, gentlemen. One, two, ready, and go, So after moving up from music of Scott Joplin in 1901 and 1902, we're going to move on to some music of George M. Cohan. And this is a medley, and I have a few notes about Cohan's music. All of these pieces, first of all, some of you I'm sure are very familiar with the movie Yankee Doodle Dandy, which was a musical from 1942 that starred Jimmy Cagney and made Jimmy Cagney very famous. And he sang many of these songs, but that movie was actually a revival of much earlier music. George M. Cohan lived from 1878 and he passed away in 1942. So he never got to see the musical on Broadway, Yankee Doodle Dandy. But many of the songs came from two of his operas. One opera that he wrote in 1904 called Little Johnny Jones, and that features Give My Regards to Broadway and The Yankee Doodle Boy. Those were both written originally in 1904. And then in 1906, he wrote a few other well-known tunes, 45 Minutes from Broadway, Mary's a Grand Old Name, which was named after his daughter, and that was written in 1909, and also his mother, whose name was Agnes Mary Cohan. So he felt Mary's a Grand Old Name, so that one fits inside this medley of tunes by George M. Cohan. So that's what we're going to do next. It's a little bit longer than some of the other pieces because it's a medley, and we hope the wind doesn't pick up because we all have page turns and things, and we're trying to hold on to our music and adjust our pages and get everything in shape. Before we play this, though, I'd like to introduce one of our members, John Weber. John Weber is our tuba player, and he's our principal tuba. He drove down from Chicago today. You don't want to ask him how long it took to get to my house on the south side of Valpo. But John, would you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where you taught, what you did?
Well,
Speak loud so they can hear you.
I started in high school, playing in high school, and then from there, when it was time for me to go in the Army, I was fortunate enough to be able to play in the United States Military Academy Band in West Point. And after that, I went to school to get my degree for teaching, and I taught for 34 years in Harvey, Illinois, in the grade school system. And I also freelance, so I play sometimes extra at the opera, Lyric Opera in Chicago, and various other places, and a lot of Oktoberfest too, because I'm a tuba player. And then here I am.
Okay, so you are retired, and how long have you played with the South Shore Brass Band? Probably since it started, or close to it, right?
About, I don't know, yeah, about...
close to 15 years.
Yes.
Because the band, we celebrated our 50th anniversary last year, I believe, right? And so this would be our 16th, and we are hoping to play a season yet. Obviously, we won't be playing this summer, probably not this fall. We usually do a student concert combined with students that sit side by side with the members of the brass band. But we do have a concert once school gets started. We hope to go back down to Couts and perform with some of their students with a full brass band, probably distance out in the parking lot or in the field somewhere. But it will be interesting. We hope we get the opportunity to do that. But we're happy to have John. He's a terrific tuba player. We can always count on him. He's brought with him several arrangements that we've used with the quintet. This one, however, was arranged by Paul Nagel, and as I mentioned, tunes from George M. Cohan, and it's called just the George M. Cohan Medley. and it opens with a tuba. How appropriate. 1, 2, play. before we play our next tune, I'm going to ask our trombone player to tell you a little bit about himself, because he is the only one in this group that is not trained in music school as a music education person, as a teacher. So Len, if you tell us about yourself. He's from Crown Point, Indiana, Len Bissett.
Hello, yeah, Len Bissett, playing trombone, born and raised in Crown Point, Indiana. Started playing about 19, I think I was in the 6th grade, I think. So at St. Mary's Catholic School in Crown Point. They had a band at the time. And for some reason, I don't know why, maybe it's because I think it's a tall instrument, but I always wanted to play the trombone. So here I am. Well, at least some people say it. Anyway, yes. So I playing the trombone. Had a wonderful experience in high school with a fellow who was a director then at Crown Point by name Val Castronovo. Became just a sort of an inspiration to me. It was really a wonderful time. Spent a couple years down in Rensselaer at St. Joe's College, and I was actually studying music, but didn't finish a degree or anything. A couple years later, spent 3 semesters at North Texas State in Denton, Texas, and then I've been really, like I say, really fortunate actually that the phone's still ringing. People keep calling, although certainly not so much in the last 4 months or so. But yeah. Nonetheless, yeah, the phone rings, and fortunately, most of the time, especially now since I retired from NIPSCO a couple years ago, and so now I've got quite a bit of time where I can actually say yes, I can play that job now. So it's been a pleasure. Fortunate to have joined the Tom Milo Big Band out of LaPorte, Indiana, back in 1988. I've been playing with them ever since. It's been a wonderful time, wonderful people there, of course, and I love the music that we get to play. It's a 16-piece big band, and we had a lot of opportunities to do a lot of cool stuff with the Milo Band, including six cruises that we went on, which was excellent. I also have quite a musical family. My wife is a saxophone, oboe, English horn player. My older son is a trombone player. My daughter is a singer in the Northwest Indiana Chorus and plays French horn. And my younger son is a tuba and trombone player. So other than that, we don't have anything else covered. So, but we need a bigger bus to get all of us to the gig. Anyway, so like I say, I've been really fortunate, and it's a genuine pleasure to be here. Thanks.
That's great. We're happy to have Len in the band. We can always count on him. He keeps a beat for us a lot of times with our ensemble, and we're going to kind of feature him in a piece that was written by probably a man that you know of, but you may not know what name. This particular piece was not written by Gus Beans, although that was one of the names he used. He also used a pseudonym of Ray Hall, Harold Hartley, Henrietta Hall, in case he wanted to be published as a female composer, Al Hayes, or Will Huff, which we think was kind of a play on huffing and puffing on the trombone, or Harold Bennett. But his actual name was Henry Fillmore. He lived from 1881 to 1956. He wrote a lot of great pieces for trombone, and we're going to feature Len in this one, and it's called Lassus Trombone, a slow drag. We're all going to play right DS.
We're going to do our best.
Okay?
We're going to do our best.
Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and go. Because all we have to do is a few notes here and there, and Len does all the hard work. So that's terrific. Well, as soon as let's see, we get the next piece up, we're gonna we're gonna jump over to the Belle of Chicago March.
Right after this one?
Yep, right now.
Oh, right now.
We're gonna go to the Belle of Chicago March,
Belle of Chicago,
which was a march Sousa wrote in 1892, and hopefully we can all find the music for it. As soon as we've got all the music, I want Dave Alley to take a minute and tell us about his background in music. Dave Alley, go ahead.
Thank you, Phil. My name's Dave Alley, and I'm from Dyer, Indiana, which makes me an official Dyerian. I've been teaching for over 47 years. I started at Memorial Junior High School and retired after 36 years of teaching, and now I'm working with Merit School of Music downtown Chicago. They have me working with the BVB4E, which is the Midwest Youth Music in Hammond, Indiana, and I also work at Rachel Carson Elementary School downtown Chicago on the west side, if you will, and then on Saturdays with their tuition-free conservatory. And I'm very proud to be part of this organization. I'm not really a member of the quartet or quintet, but they've invited me to play with them tonight, and I'm honored to be here tonight. I'm one of the original members of the brass band, and it's a fantastic organization, and I hope you come to our concerts and listen to us play, and I hope you share this video with all your friends so that we can all listen in. So thank you, and Phil, thank you for calling me.
Okay, so there'll be a link on the podcast or on the Westchester Public Library to find this podcast, and then you'll be able to listen to us, and you can hear any mistakes we made. It's because of the train or the lawnmower or the ice cream machine or some other distraction. But this early Sousa March is called the Belle of Chicago. And he wrote this, again, in 1892, okay? And this is with no repeats, guys. No repeats. No repeats, okay? So 1, 2, ready? That's a nice short march. It was very well known in its time, one of his earliest marches. Next, we're going to go on to play a piece that you might be, Floral Dance, guys. Get up to Floral Dance.
Floral Dance.
Floral Dance. This, when we start talking about a brass band, you may or may not know, but in the brass band, normally we have only cornets and a soprano trumpet that plays a the high cornet part and would be like piccolo or flute in a concert band. And then we have, in the mid-range, we have a flugelhorn and no French horns, but E-flat alto horns. And then baritones and euphoniums. And if you don't know the difference, that's okay, because the players of them don't really know either. You can Google it or check Wikipedia. And then we have tubas, both in the key of E-flat and the key of B-flat. John, what tuba are you playing tonight?
A B-flat.
He's playing a B-flat tuba tonight. So, but he has a B-flat and a C and an E-flat and all different tubas. So this next piece is called the Floral Dance. And if you've ever seen the movie Brassed Off, which is a fantastic movie about a British brass band and the problems with it closing down because the coal mine was shutting down, you probably heard this tune. So let's do the Floral Dance. Remember, we're going to be in two. 1, 2, 1 and 2. I'd like to have Larry Lane, our lead trumpet player, just tell you a little bit about his background. Make it quick because we're almost out of time. Well, we got about 5 minutes left. So.
I got 5 minutes?
No, you get about a minute and a half.
I took my first trumpet lesson November 2nd of 1953.
Wow.
My teacher told me practice every day. Do not stop practicing until you've got it perfect. I'm still practicing because I haven't played one song perfect yet.
And you spent your career at?
I spent my career teaching 39 years in East Chicago. Last 30 years I've played with a mariachi acero. Some of the kids who were my students and I went to a convention in Tucson and play about 100 jobs a year. So I'm still learning.
Okay, so you know, they talk about physicians, doctors who practice. Well, musicians practice a lot also. We practice by ourselves, we practice together, and we keep trying to get it right. So, not perfect, but correct. So, next we'd like to feature a Glenn Miller tune. I'm sure you'll recognize it, the Moonlight Serenade. One, two, three. been happy to have been here tonight. We're going to play one more Sousa march. Brass bands are expected to play marches. As you can guess, we play lots of other music of all different types, and whether it's with the quintet here or with the full band, the New York Hippodrome. New York Hippodrome. And as I said, I think everybody's introduced themselves. I spent 20 years, first at North Judson schools, North Judson San Pierre, and then I spent time at Boone Grove as band director, music director, and I did some choir along the way. And then I got a second degree in music computer education, and when they built the new high school, I stayed at the middle school and I taught computer applications, Microsoft Word and Excel and all those kind of cool things, and keyboarding. And I stayed in the 7th grade for 9 years, and I finally made it to the 8th grade. I spent 6 years in the 8th grade, and then they finally let me retire. So we're going to finish up our program tonight with the New York Hippodrome March by John Philip Sousa. This was written in 1915, obviously for the New York Hippodrome, which is one of the largest concert halls in the world at the time. So all second endings, right, guys? Okay. 1, 2, here we go.
Thank you all so much. Thank you. This is our final performance of our virtual summer concert series. We're so grateful to you for watching. Wanted to remind you that if you'd like to revisit these performances from this summer, they're all posted to the Westchester Public Library YouTube page, and you can watch them again and again. Thank you so much for watching, and good night.